couldn't believe it. My wife was having sex with our wedding planner on our wedding day. I caught my wife cheating on me with our wedding planner on our wedding day. Can you believe that she picked the most important day in our lives as the day to cheat? I have come across many women in my life, but none of them has been as disgusting and stupid as the woman I now call my wife today. Can you imagine the gravity of the situation at hand? There is no form of disrespect worse than stooping so low on your own wedding day. My fellow Redditors, I'm not just going to sit back and act like nothing happened. I'm extremely lucky to have found out the truth, and trust me, now that I know, that woman is going to get what's coming for her. It was so close that I almost didn't know the true nature of what happened. If I had been like one of those men to fall helplessly in love with a woman, I'd have been crushed like a freaking pie. I'm thankful that I did not listen to my stupid friends who told me not to be suspicious of my own partner. Lol. Maybe they expected me to blindly follow her like I was a fool. I don't believe in the concept of trusting a woman so much that you turn a blind eye to the signs that are obviously in front of you. I'd rather end a relationship because the woman did not like my alertness than end a relationship because I found out I was being cheated on. There's nothing more devastating than finding out that the man you've been paying to plan your wedding has been sleeping with your wife. Indirectly, I've been paying this man to sleep with the woman I wanted to marry. Well, technically, I'm already married to her, and that's what makes the situation worse than it already is. The discovery of something so deceitful is the most annoying thing ever. Right now, I can't even help but think that my friends could have been in on it. I believe this because they have been against all the suspicions I had for my wife. Anytime I brought it up, they'd advise me to forget about it and focus on the wedding. Oh, let me clarify something. I only saw signs of my wife's cheating behavior a day before our wedding. Why did I not call it off? Like I said, I saw signs. I was not sure. She did not give anything away. I could not just suddenly cancel a wedding with over 150 people in attendance just because I saw signs I was not sure of. Now, this is the part where I blame my family and her family. The pressure that people put on you before your wedding makes you blinded to everything just because you cannot imagine canceling all the plans you have made. Before I go on with this experience of mine, let me give you all an insight into the relationship I have with my wife and how I met her. My name is Daniel, and I am a 29-year-old man who is married to Andrea, a 27-year-old woman. I met Andrea at a friend's wedding, and the funny thing is that I even brought a date to the wedding. So, do you want to know how I left the wedding with Andrea? I think things got complicated that day at the wedding reception. The couple we were celebrating are very versatile couples who are hard party animals. They live for parties and a good time. So, of course, their wedding had numerous varieties of drinks and shots. We drank, and we honestly almost exceeded our limit. I can hold my alcohol very well. I can hold my alcohol insanely well, to be honest. But I don't know what those people added to those drinks. I got drunk for the first time in my whole life that day. I wasn't the only one in attendance who got drunk. Everybody did, including the couples. Andrea was not left out of the dunk squad, and that's how we started talking. I don't even know where my date went that night and how I ended up in my apartment with Andrea. The next morning was when everything came crashing down on me like a bucket of ice water. I had a one-night stand with Andrea. We all know one-night stands are not uncommon, but it was a big deal for me since I'm very particular about the people I interact with. For me to have left my date and went home with Andrea, I knew I had to be extremely drunk that night. My date did not contact me after that day again, and I was left as a single man. To my surprise, Andrea messaged me the next day after she left my apartment in the morning. I was surprised to see her message because I did not recollect asking her for her phone number. My fellow Redditors, the truth is that Andrea actually took my phone number from my phone that night. Yes, my wife was the one who made the first move. I admired her confidence, and that's how we started talking. We would hook up once in a while, but it soon got heated, and then we started dating. We dated for 4 years. And trust me, guys, it was an on and off dating. We weren't really a stable couple for the first 2 years. We would break up, then get back together again, and it went on and on. I really felt like she was my soulmate because we always seemed to find each other all over again. We dated seriously for 2 years straight, and that's when we decided to get married. I proposed to her and she said yes. That's how the journey started. To be honest, the wedding preparations are always the things that ruin marriage and the compatibility of the couple. If the couple are able to withstand the tedious wedding preparations and family rivalry, you can boldly say that they have a strong will to be together. To be honest, I'll say this to you all. Our wedding preparation was insane. Our families are the exact opposite of each other. They have different tastes in everything. Planning the wedding had to be one of the worst periods of my life. Her family wanted a big wedding, and my family wanted a small wedding. I had to put my foot down and let them know my wife and I hold the final say on how our wedding should go. Andrea and I finally decided to have a wedding that was not too big or small. We cut down the guest list to 150 people, and that's how we made it work. My fellow Redditors, let's get to the whole starting point of this story. The wedding planner who had been fucking my wife. We all know how it's always normal for a woman to take charge of the wedding planning. I mean, it's always the woman who wants the wedding to be perfect and dreamy, like she wants it. I never had a problem with Andrea taking charge of the wedding. To be honest, the wedding was bigger than I wanted it to be. Her family initially wanted a guest list of 250 people. I don't even know how they know that many people in the first place. We had to cut it down to 150 because I made it clear that I was not comfortable with so many people. I initially wanted just 90 people present. Having so many people only brought a bigger workload, but Andrea promised that she would handle things. I really didn't care as long as we had a wedding. But Andrea wanted to go big and extra. She spent nights looking at screens and browsing what the perfect wedding theme would be. At first, I tried to let her do her thing, but consequently, I decided to be a part of it. Not because I wanted to, but because I did not want to overwhelm her. Despite my desire to help, Andrea assured me that she was just fine on her own and didn't need any help. I stopped trying because I did not have the time to waste anyway. Andrea chose the wedding planner and I paid him. That was the arrangement. But I never expected our arrangement to end up with lies and unfaithfulness. My fellow Redditors, the wedding planner was a man. That did sit well with me because I hardly heard of cases where the wedding planner was a man. In fact, up until that moment, I didn't know that there were male wedding planners. I know they usually have male assistants or employees, but I never expected the head wedding planner to be a man. I did not suspect cheating because he was a man. No, it was far from it. I only doubted his ability to carry out the job, and that's why I asked Andrea why she picked him. She told me he was actually a very good wedding planner and that he was very popular in the wedding scene. I know nothing about wedding planners and their social presence, so I did not press further. From the designs he drafted off, he was actually very good at what he did. I made him go through a test my sister prepared, and he aced it. I did not have a problem hiring him, as long as he was good at his job. I do not have low self-esteem, so I was not troubled by having a man plan the wedding as long as he was a professional. Little did I know that this wedding planner was having the time of his life with Andrea. Now that I think about it, I'm really finding the whole situation laughable. This man was practically sleeping with Andrea nonstop, and I only found out on our wedding day. When I say I found out on our wedding day, I mean it was just barely an hour after our wedding and before our reception. But I'll get into that later. Let me tell you all what's really getting on my nerves. You know that it's a normal occurrence for the wedding planner and the bride to spend a lot of time together. They have to pick a dress that matches the decor, the perfect veil that will not contrast with the colors. They have to do everything together so that the bride is satisfied. For the groom, you're mostly just talking about your suit and tie. You have no business with choosing lipstick colors or jewelry. So naturally, I had barely any interaction with the wedding planner. During our wedding preparation, I took a leave from work, but I still had to attend Zoom meetings and try working on my computer. I had to make money. I'm sure my fellow Redditors can agree that wedding expenditures are outrageous. Nobody really cares how much you spent. They just want to see how perfect everything is. For me, it was the same situation. I had to work because I knew there's a life after the wedding, and we'd need to feed too. I don't consider myself a strict man, but I do consider myself a very intentional man. I don't like to lazy around or mince words. I did not hesitate to tell Andrea to cut down her spending. She was spending recklessly, and I was not having it. I warned her to cut everything down. Andrea literally took a whole month leave from work. That meant she was not getting any salary. I had to make her understand that money did not fall on trees. To be honest, our problems began from there. She got offended that I was telling her to watch how she spent my own money. Listen, I'm not a stingy man and I don't have a problem with spending on my wife, but I don't see anything wrong with telling her to watch how she spends money on irrelevant things. I still stand with what I said and there's no changing it. You should be able to respect money that you don't earn and use it for things that make sense. I mean, Andrea wanted us to have our reception on a yacht. Listen, if the guest list contained just under 50 people, I would not have a problem with that. But 150 people was just too outrageous. I was not ready to fund 150 people on a yacht. Can you imagine how much their feeding alone would cost? I made it clear to Andrea that we must have the wedding reception in a hotel. I did not leave room for debate, and I literally put my foot down on that one. I did not expect the reaction I got from Andrea. She began to act like a fucking spoiled brat. Mind you, this happened 2 weeks before our wedding. Andrea became rude and rebellious just because I changed the reception venue. I got so angry at one point that I told her I was going to cut things off if she did not change her attitude. She got scared and apologized to me. I honestly thought she'd keep to her word, and she did, but she did so in her own deceitful way. Even though Andrea stopped overreacting and trying to have an attitude, I still spoke to my friends about it. I told them I was not impressed with her behavior, and I explained why I felt that way to them. If Andrea behaved that way before we started our wedding preparation, I'd have taken a decision without consulting anyone first. But the reason I gave her the benefit of doubt is because I knew how stressful planning a wedding could be. I was stressed myself and understood that the tension and pressure to outdo yourself and make everything perfect can make you lose your personality a little bit. My friends brushed my concerns off and told me it was normal for women to become cranky during their wedding preparations. The married ones even narrated their own similar experiences to me and told me not to worry about it. If only I knew that my own experience came with a cheating scandal. Another reason why I did not give Andrea a hard time is because I felt bad for leaving all the planning to her. I tried to help her several times, but she turned my help down and told me she was just fine doing it alone. It's really not my fault that she took up most of the stress. Sometimes I'd try to input ideas and even help her, but she told me I was just adding to her stress. That discouraged me, and so I left her to do what she really wanted to do. So, as our wedding day drew closer, Andrea was back to her normal self. She stopped having an attitude and she listened to my inputs. I did not find this weird at all because I believed that she was back to her normal self because the wedding stress was coming to an end. I stopped trying to pry into her life and I stopped suspecting her movements. But 2 days to our wedding, I questioned everything I thought was true. We were already logged in at our hotel and we were busy getting ready for bed. Andrea suddenly got a phone call and she rushed out of the room to receive the call. I found this very weird because we never received calls away from each other. Even when it's a call about work, we sit with each other and take the call. There are even times when we put the call on loudspeaker so the other person could hear what was being said. So I obviously knew something had to be fishy if Andrea did not receive the call in front of me. I was pissed off and irritated at the same time. I left the room and decided to go search for her. I did not care how she'd feel if she saw me following her. A wedding was not a joke, so I had to be sure my wife was aware of that. I found her in the hallway whispering into the phone, and that's when I lost it. I walked up to her and tried grabbing the phone from her hands. She ended the call immediately and asked me why I disrupted her call. I asked her why she found it hard to receive the call in the room, and she gave the excuse of not wanting to disturb me. I told her I did not mind, and she was aware of that. Andrea tried to brush it off by telling me she was tired and that we needed to go to bed, but I was not having it. My fellow Redditors, I had to make sure she told me what the call was about. Andrea got annoyed and told me she was talking to a relative of hers who needed directions on how to get to the hotel. That was a lame excuse, and I told her I did not buy it at all. This is to tell you guys how vigilant I'd been, but I was still played like a fool at the end of the day. I made Andrea understand that her suspicious movements were only making me have second doubts about the wedding. She got upset when I told her that and explained to me that she was really talking to a relative. She even went as far as showing me the call log. The number was saved as Aunt. Well, my fellow Redditors, I just discovered that Andrea's aunt has a beard and looks like a man. Oh wait, he looks like our wedding planner. He is our wedding planner. I can't even believe the kind of lame excuse I fell for that day. Of course I believed her, and went on with it. How am I expected to suddenly guess she was lying to me? It's ironic if you think about it. You know, sometimes you get caught up in situations that are not ideal at all. I'm a witness to that, and I can tell you this for free, it's always irritating. There is nothing more annoying than being blindsided and lied to many times. Everything only makes sense when you have found out the truth. But before the truth is out, it's almost like you're going around a maze and you do not know the direction to take. One day before my wedding, I was practically going around a maze because Andrea was making me doubt a lot of things. My fellow Redditors, imagine what I was thinking when I saw these signs 24 hours before I tried the knot. The preparations were intensifying, and guests had started arriving. My colleagues from work and my relatives from far and near were present. Even my boss made it to my wedding. Everything seemed fine that day, until Andrea gave me a reason to worry again. I was not worried about her. I was worried about making a fool of myself in front of so many people. I needed to know why Andrea was nowhere to be seen a day before our wedding. Yes, Reddit, you read that right. Andrea practically vanished from the room, and I did not see her for a very long time. Anyone I asked told me she went shopping for a last-minute design for the wedding. I did not like how that sounded at all. The wedding planner was supposed to be the one in charge of running errands like that. I asked them why the wedding planner did not go get it, and they said he accompanied Andrea. Yes, I'm telling you the facts. Andrea left the hotel with the wedding planner to get whatever design she needed to get. You all needed to see how mad I was that day. I was practically livid. I did not appreciate the fact that Andrea left the hotel with the wedding planner without letting me know first. It felt like she was just going around making whatever decisions she thought were right. She did not consult me first. If I left the hotel like that without her knowledge, I'd probably be tagged the heartless fiancé who does not let his wife know where he's going. But Andrea did not think twice before doing what she did. Even then, I did not suspect that Andrea was cheating on me. I did not even suspect that she had anything to do with the wedding planner at all. That's just me telling you how secretive they had been. I know some of you might comment that I was a fool not to notice the signs, but that is just because you all already know where this is headed. I did not know back then. I could not even think of it. It's just like a woman finding out her husband is sleeping with her best friend who is her chief bridesmaid. Let's say she saw them together on many occasions, but she did not suspect a thing until she found out they were actually sleeping with each other. That's the same case for me. There's no way I suddenly thought about the prospect of my wife sleeping with our own wedding planner. It's not something that happens every day. When Andrea came back with the wedding planner that day, I pulled her to the side and had a very heated argument with her. I inquired where she had been, and she told me she went to get something for the wedding. I asked her why she did not let me know, and she said it slipped off her mind. I did not let her off the hook this time. I was so angry that I asked her if she did not want to get married anymore. She was surprised and asked why I was implying that. To be honest, that day we had a very long argument, and at the end of the day she apologized and promised not to be so careless again. It's not the best situation to have an argument a day to your wedding day, but it's not an unlikely situation. It happens a lot, and I know this because I've attended many weddings before. The bride and groom argue and have differences even on the very day of their wedding. Andrea begged for my forgiveness and told me the wedding stress was making her forget things, and that's why she forgot to let me know a heat of time. I thought about it for a while and decided to let it go. To be honest, I could also see that she was stressed with the wedding, but scratch that. I can now tell that the source of her stress was just as a result of her trying to juggle her secret affair with planning the wedding. Everything that happened to her during that period was all her fault. Andrea is to be blamed for how everything turned out. She made poor, deceitful decisions and thought she could be quirky about it. Now, let me tell you all what happened on the wedding day and how I found out she was cheating on me with the wedding planner. Our wedding day came and we were really excited. You know that feeling of satisfaction when everything you have worked so hard for is finally happening before your eyes? You feel content and extremely grateful to witness it. That feeling was no different from what I felt. In my case, I'd spent a lot of money on the wedding, so when I saw how it turned out, I was super excited. A day before the wedding, I had a bachelor party and so did Andrea. Andrea had a bridal shower. It was like a remake of how we met each other for the first time. Just like that day, we both got drunk and spent the night together. I woke up with a headache on my wedding day, but I was lucky enough to get some hot soup, which helped with the hangover. I did not see Andrea in the morning because she went to get ready. I also spent time getting ready for the wedding. It felt good to see our family members together. They all seemed happy for us, and I was really glad that they could make it. If I'm correct, there had to be more than 150 people at the wedding that day. Thankfully, I did not agree to having the wedding on the yacht, so I was not really bothered. After we said our vows in church, it was time for us to go get some rest before we went to the reception. Andrea had to go change her dress and I had to go change mine too. I also wanted to take a shower because I was very tired. The reception hall was set up at that time and some of the guests were already getting ready to go to the venue. After taking a shower and changing my clothes, I decided to go in search of Andrea. I forgot to give her the bracelet I bought for her the night before. I felt like the bracelet would look good on the reception dress she was going to wear. It took me some time to find the room Andrea was logged in because I'd not seen the room in the morning. We separated to get dressed and chose separate rooms to get ready. While I was still in search of her room, I was very excited to be a married man. I kept thinking about the bumps we had before getting married and how we met each other at a friend's party. I think it's safe to say that I was practically going down memory lane that day. I had to ask a worker at the hotel where Andrea's room was before I was directed there. I was so excited that I even forgot to knock on the door. I just pushed the door open, but my excitement vanished immediately. I did not expect to see what I'd seen that day. Not in a million years did I think that my own wife will be sprawled on the bed like a whore in her wedding dress, while the wedding planner that was under my fucking payroll was on top of her naked. It felt like the whole world had stopped and was waiting for me to digest the sight I was looking at. Andrea's wedding gown, a gown that I fucking paid for, was ripped off. They were having sex right before my eyes. They were so lost in the act that it took a few seconds before Andrea noticed my presence. I can still remember how her eyes widened infinitesimally and how she pushed the wedding planner off her immediately. I was then able to see the full state of her dress. She looked like a fucking hooker. Her makeup was smeared and her hair was scattered around the place. She opened her mouth to speak, but I grabbed the glass of water near the door and threw it at the bed immediately. I was angry. I was livid, and I swear that it took all my self-control for me not to throw that glass at their heads. Before a second thought, I slapped the wedding planner across the face. The fool had to be less than 24 years old at most. He was slimmer than a model, and I thought he was even gay. But no, the boy I was paying to plan my wedding was sleeping with my wife. Do you know the worst part? They didn't even have the decency to use a condom. I grabbed him by the shoulders and kicked him in the groin. Yes, Redditors, I kicked him there. Andrea jumped out of the bed and started pleading with me. She said she was sorry and blah, blah, blah. I didn't even have time to listen to her. I called out to my elder brother, whose room was just a few rooms away. I continued calling his name till he rushed into the room. He was also shocked to see what was going on. He rushed to my side and asked me if what he was seeing was true. Of course it was, and that's what I told him. I was disgusted, irritated, and disappointed. There are no words to describe the amount of disgust I felt for Andrea and the wedding planner. I felt betrayed, but at that moment, everything began to make sense to me. I finally understood why Andrea sneaked out of the hotel to go buy something the day before. Everything finally made sense to me, but it was just too late. There was nothing I could do because I was already married to her. I was married to a cheater, and she dared cheat on me on our own wedding day. I could not even look at Andrea or listen to her speak, and that's when I hatched my plan. I did not care if I was already married to her or whatnot. I needed to make her regret her actions. I needed to make her shiver in fear whenever she heard my name or even got remotely close to me. There was no way I was going to act like I did not just see what transpired before me. I had no reason to protect a marriage that had no respect for me. Just one look at my brother, and he already knew what I had in mind. He could tell that I wanted to disgrace them, so he asked me what to do. I told him to grab the wedding planner while I grabbed Andrea. He did as he was told, and that was how we grabbed them out of the room. My fellow Redditors, I know you all are wondering what we ended up doing to them. Well, I did what I could think of at that moment that would be extremely embarrassing. I wanted to make sure that I crushed their egos to the limit. You know the funny thing? The huge guest list Andrea and her family were so desperate to have worked to my own advantage. There were over 150 people present, which meant they did not listen to me. But guess what? It ended up ruining them at the end of the day. All the guests were already waiting for us at the reception, and so my brother and I dragged them to the reception hall. The wedding planner pleaded with me to let him at least put on his pants, but I refused. Yes, I refused. Do you think he just stood there and let my brother carry him? Oh no. He tried putting up a fight. But that was when I called on two of my other friends who came too, look for me and ask why we took so much time. So Redditors, 3 men dragged the wedding planner to the reception while I pulled Andrea and followed them. She cried, wailed, and begged for my forgiveness, but I ignored her like the filth she is. I did not care about her tattered clothes, messy hair, or almost exposed boobs. She's shameless, so she should not have a problem with being disgraced in front of the guests. Everyone stood up immediately when they saw us. I could see the obvious shock on their faces. I mean, they all came to witness a wedding, but they were seeing a naked man and almost naked woman. A woman that was supposed to be the bride. Andrea's family rushed towards us with obvious worry on their faces. My fellow Redditors, they looked horrified. They tried to cover her up, and her father even had the audacity to ask me if I was out of her mind. I ignored them and pushed Andrea to the stage with the wedding planner. My parents tried to talk to me and ask me what was going on, but I ignored them too. I was too angry to act reasonably or try to explain anything to anyone, so I just focused on what I wanted to do. Just as I went to grab the mic from the MC, Andrea tried running away, but my brother was able to grab her on time. Even the wedding planner did not dare move. He just squatted and hid his face because he was aware of his full nudity. His only saving grace was the towel that one of his employees threw to him. That's what he used to cover himself up. Using the mic, I told everyone how I just found my newly wedded wife sleeping with the wedding planner in her hotel room when she was meant to be changing into her reception dress. My fellow Redditors, I can still remember the gasps that echoed in the hall that day. Before I could even start the next sentence, people grabbed their phones and started recording the scene that was unfolding before them. For the first time in my entire life, I was happy to have a huge crowd present. I told everyone how Andrea must have been sleeping with this wedding planner for a long time. Well, I was not wrong, guys, because I discovered that they started having an affair the moment she hired him. You should not have allowed her to keep the wedding planner. Those were the words some people said to me. I laughed in their faces and called them cowards. It sounds stupid to try and blame me for someone else's poor choices. I should have stopped her from cheating. What's that supposed to mean? A person that wants to cheat will cheat. They don't need an excuse. Cheaters do not need to be given excuses for decisions they made when sober. Andrea tried to turn the tables around and tell me how I cheated on my date that night when we met. I had to explain to the fool that I was not even in a relationship with the girl I brought. She was my date to the wedding, and we were in the talking stage. I was not dating her, neither was I married to her. I was not her fiancé. Andrea was so dumbfounded that she had to hide her face from the cameras. At that moment, I knew I was done with her, and so I left the reception hall immediately. Thankfully, I'd not given the wedding planner his remaining balance for planning the wedding. Of course, I was not foolish enough to give it to him. I went to Andrea's hotel room with my brother and packed all the dresses she bought for the reception, the jewelry, and even her shoes and bags. I also grabbed her purse. I sold everything off 1 week later and kept the money for myself. I paid for the whole wedding. I might have wasted money on the reception, but I was able to get my money back from the outrageous designer bags and shoes. That's how my wedding ended 2 weeks ago, guys. Talk of plot twists, right? I decided to share this story with Reddit because I'm still shocked from the events. I've not seen Andrea since that day, and I do not plan to see her anytime soon. I filed for annulment the very next day after the wedding, and after a lot of procedures, our marriage will be annulled soon. I think it's right to say I had the worst wedding ever, lol. I'm just very thankful that I found out in time. It was already late, but it could have been worse. If she can cheat on our wedding day, what can't she do? I freed myself from the marriage, and in a couple of days, I'll be legally free and single. Thank you for reading this disgusting experience of mine. I hope you learn a thing or two from my experience. Till next time, Reddit. My wife ran away immediately. I told her I wanted a divorce just so she can stay married to me. I have never hated living in North Carolina like I do now. The laws that guide the divorce are making it extremely difficult for me to get out of this sham of a marriage with my alcohol-addicted wife. I just found out that she cheated on me, and now I want our marriage to end. The only problem is that even if I file for divorce now, I'll have to stay married to her for up to 1 more year while we live separately. She knows this, and that's why she confidently believes that I would never try divorcing her. Her ego and self-confidence in this matter is what is making me more determined to divorce her as fast as I can. I can't stand the thought of giving her an upper hand in this situation. I'm repulsed by the possibility of her thinking she has a hold of me. I'm ready to show that cheating woman that I'm more than ready to divorce her immediately. My name is Mason, and I'm a 31-year-old artist from North Carolina, USA. I also make and trade NFTs. I live in Asheville, which is a very large city in North Carolina. I'm married to Ava, and she's a 31-year-old artist from North Carolina too. Yes, my wife and I are artists. In fact, that's how we met. Ava and I met at an art exhibition 5 years ago, and the rest is history. I'll be truly honest with you guys. I'm finding it hard to write this story. I've never done something like this before, but I have to do this so I can keep being sane. I've been itching to share this exhausting story of mine with someone. But as a man, there are some things that aren't expected of you. It's easier sharing things like this with strangers that do not know you and can't really judge you than sharing this with friends or colleagues that would never look at you the same way. LOL, as if I can control the narrative of what another person does. I found out Ava cheated on me 2 weeks ago, and everything has literally gone downhill from there. I got back from work early and found used protection in the waste bin. She had slept off on the couch after taking too much alcohol. Yes, Ava is practically an alcohol addict. Before you judge me, let me tell you the truth. I didn't know Ava was addicted to alcohol until the 2nd year of our marriage, and we've been married for 4 years now. 2 years ago, after we left the art exhibition she organized, I caught her practically gulping down alcohol in the toilet. I know how disgusting that sounds, and trust me, I was disgusted too. I asked her why she was doing that, and she told me that the stress from planning her art exhibition and making the art pieces perfect had taken a toll on her. I didn't like the idea that she was stress drinking, but I understood her plight since I am an artist too, and I'm aware of how the tension can get under your skin. I told her there was nothing wrong in feeling stressed and that she didn't need to drink in the toilet or hide from me. I was very surprised that day because even though we went to clubs, Ava never drank alcohol. She always told me that she hated it. Well, I later discovered that she had an alcohol problem before we met and had gone to rehab. That's why she abstained when we met up to 2 years into our marriage before she got back to her addiction. Ava drank occasionally after that, but it was never serious. But it got worse 1 year ago, and I tried taking her back to rehab, but she refused. I didn't want to be the coward who left his wife at the most traumatizing moment in her life, so I tried my best to help her. I swore never to give up on helping her, but now I've realized that she took my generosity for kindness and is now cheating on me. I have been patient with Ava on many things. I don't understand why she would ever think of cheating on me. It's because of her alcohol problem that we decided not to try getting pregnant until she goes to rehab. That day when I got back from work and found her collapsed on the couch after drinking, I didn't expect to see used protection in the waste bin. I was 100% sure that I wasn't the one that used the protection. Most times after coming back from my work studio, Ava was drunk or she had a hangover. I couldn't sleep with her in that kind of state, so we haven't been together romantically for almost 2 months now. That's why seeing the used protection in the waste bin only meant she was cheating on me. I was very angry, and I am still very angry. I didn't mind tolerating all her flaws before because I know I'm not perfect too, and marriage is all about tolerating each other and accepting each other's flaws. But cheating is a flaw that I will never be willing to accept. The fact that Ava could cheat on me even after everything I have been through with her and how I have stood by her just goes to show how messed up people are. To what extent does someone have to really go before they get back the amount of respect they deserve? That night, Ava was still drunk, so I waited for her to get up in the morning. I wasted no time before I confronted her and demanded answers. Ava didn't recognize my claims. She insisted that the protection I'd seen in the waste bin was the ones we'd used more than 2 months ago. Can you believe just how stupid she thought I was? I refused to believe what she said and warned her to tell me the truth. Ava resisted all my advances and tried swaying me with her words. I don't tolerate betrayal, so I went outside the house and asked our gatekeeper, Luke, for the truth. He used to work for my parents before they moved to California, so he's basically my family friend. I didn't doubt his ability to be honest with me, and that's why I asked him to tell me the truth. Just like I suspected, he told me that a particular man had come to see Ava twice within the range of 3 days. I asked him if that same man came the day before, which was the day I found the protection in the waste bin. Luke affirmed that the same man had visited the day before. I thanked him before driving out of the house immediately. For the first 30 minutes, I just drove around the city and didn't stop anywhere in particular. I was engaged and needed to cool my temper. I finally stopped at a gym, and that was where I transferred all my aggression to the punching bag. I was very angry and didn't want to have a conversation with Ava in that state because I didn't trust what I might have ended up doing. When I got back to the house, I'd already made up my mind. There were no two ways about it. I knew that I wanted a divorce from Ava immediately. When I got to the house, she was busy having lunch like nothing happened. I didn't waste any time. I told her we needed a divorce immediately and that I could not forgive the fact that she cheated on me. At first, she tried saying she got drunk and blah, blah, blah. But when she noticed that I was not ready to change my decision, her true colors finally came out. I couldn't even recognize Ava again. Sure, I'd seen her in some of the worst phases of her life, but I'd never seen her in that evil state. She talked like a selfish person and acted nonchalant about cheating on me. She claimed that I stopped getting intimate with her, so she cheated. I had to do a double take and make sure I heard her twice. I didn't touch her for her own good. She was drunk every night, for crying out loud. And, excuse me? No one wants to get intimate with someone who could throw up any time. For her to accuse me of neglecting her and using that as an excuse for cheating gave me all the affirmation I needed. I needed to run from the marriage, not even walk out. I made it clear to her that I was going to file for divorce, and I gave her 2 days to leave the house. Trust me, that was just me being generous. I thought I'd gotten the biggest shock and betrayal of my life, and I honestly believed that there was nothing anyone could do to hurt me after what Ava had done. But I guess tell God your plans and watch him laugh, right? Ava did the worst thing possible the next day. I've never hated anyone this much, and after what she did, I don't think I can ever stand her presence. When I woke up the next morning, Ava was making breakfast. She slept in the living room while I slept in the room. Of course, I didn't leave my room for her. That's never going to happen. Ava didn't offer me breakfast, and I didn't care to ask. I planned on eating at a restaurant before going to work. I left for work after getting ready. Ava and I didn't speak or even greet each other. Even now, if you ask me what she wore that morning, I do not know because I couldn't stand her presence or bring myself to look at her in the face. After I got back from work that day, I realized that I'd been living with a scheming, conniving woman for over 4 years. Ava was nowhere to be found in the house, and all her things were gone. Her closet was practically empty, and not even a pair of shoes that belonged to her was left. Ava had left the house that day. I know you all are thinking that there's nothing wrong with that, and I should be happy that she left before the deadline I gave her. Well, I thought so too and didn't think there was any need for alarm. That was until the very next day, and the day after that, and 5 days later after, I continuously tried to reach out to her, and she never picked up. I had no idea where she was. The reason it was so important to see her is because we were still married, and I needed to file for divorce. After days of trying, I decided to go ask her best friend where she was. It took a lot of persuasion before her best friend finally told me that Ava had left North Carolina. Yes, you guys, I'm not joking. Ava left North Carolina without letting me know. I felt like running crazy the moment I found out. It was very shocking and I was practically spooked. Her best friend refused to tell me where she traveled to, and Ava refused to pick any of her calls or reply to her texts. I was very worried because I knew what she was trying to do. She had to be present to sign the papers when I eventually brought them to her. I was tired of keeping everything to myself, so I decided to go speak to my lawyer. I told him everything that had transpired, and that was when I got even more angry. Ava planned out everything from the get-go. She didn't just live because she wanted to. She left because she knew the rules that guide getting a divorce in North Carolina. Ava wants to keep me stuck in this marriage, so she ran away. My lawyer told me that one of the rules of getting divorced in North Carolina clearly states that one of the couples must have been living in North Carolina for 6 months prior to filing for divorce. I'd gone on a trip 3 months before I discovered Ava was cheating on me. That automatically meant that none of us had resided in North Carolina for 6 months straight yet. I hadn't even filed for divorce by then yet. There is also another rule that states that we both have to live separately for a whole year before filing for an absolute divorce. I cannot stand staying married to Ava for 1 more year. I just can't do it, and the thought alone is enough to make me boil with anger. The fact that Ava was aware of all this yet she decided to run away just proves that she is an excuse for a woman. My lawyer advised me to try my best to get her back in North Carolina so that we would only have to wait for a year before the divorce gets finalized. If I wanted to wait just 1 year, Ava needs to come back immediately or else everything would be in vain. She was trying to draw it out, and that was why she left. We also have a joint account, and that meant that she could still spend out of my money, and there was nothing I could do about it. The divorce in North Carolina doesn't really need one partner to prove why they need her divorce, but the other partner could try to draw it out. Ava knows exactly what she is doing, and she was trying to make sure that I didn't get a divorce. I took everything she did as a reason to be more ruthless and make sure I got the divorce. If only she knew that she's making me more determined, she would come back immediately. Even as I speak to you all right now, she's still somewhere unknown. I cannot get a hold of her, and not even her best friend is ready to reveal her location. I'm very impatient right now, and I'm not ready to play fair at all. I can swear that I'll do whatever it takes to make sure I get a divorce from Ava. She cheated, and now she wants to play the victim and hold the upper hand in the marriage? Maybe she thinks that I'll be patient with her just like I was patient with her alcohol addiction. I was just trying to honor the vows I made. But now that she broke the vows first, okay, more than ready to break the vows and do whatever it takes to teach her a lesson. I've decided to start with her best friend. The name of her best friend is Francia, and she has been at the house a couple of times. I know that she's the only one aware of Ava's location, so I'm determined to make sure I get the truth out of her. I don't care how I do it or if she tries to request something else. I know Francia fancies me even though she's trying to be respectful just because of her best friend. I don't care for Ava anymore, so a little scandal wouldn't hurt. I'm going to figure something out, so I'll update you all soon. Update. Another update today. I hope you all have braces yourselves because it's about to get really messy. Broken vows and broken friendships are the most complicated thing anyone can ever be involved in. It's not my fault that I found myself in the midst of a broken friendship. I guess the drama just found me. I had to do what I had to do. So guys, I know you're all wondering what friendship I've seemingly broken. Well, it's the friendship between Ava and Francia. Yes, I did a bad thing, but I don't regret it. Ava deserves everything she's getting, and it's a shame that I've only just gotten started. How do I say this without sounding like an evil person? Well, I'll just say it as it is without mincing words. So, I decided to go to Francia and ask her for Ava's location one more time. I didn't have a particular plan in mind, I was just determined to get the truth no matter what. Francia spent minutes telling me how difficult what I was asking was. She made it clear that Ava warned her not to reveal her whereabouts. I listened to her, but I didn't leave. I told her I was not going to leave until she told me the truth. It was very stressful, and Francia was initially a hard nut to crack. But after another hour of unnecessary conversations and back and forths, Francia agreed to tell me where Ava ran off to on the condition that I went on a date with her. If you're shocked, I was even more shocked. I used to suspect that Francia was shy around me and would often blush, but I never really thought it was anything serious. When I said she fancied me in the last update, that was just me trying to be cocky. I never really thought it would get as far as it went, but I guess things are unpredictable. I was desperate to know where Ava ran off to, and I also didn't mind entertaining Francia if it would give Ava a taste of her own medicine. If not for legalities, my marriage was practically over. I wasn't ready to play fair, and I didn't mind making the game Ava started playing dirty. She's the one who confidently thinks that I'll never be able to get a divorce from her. Well, she has another thing coming. So, I went on a date with Francia, and after that, we went on another date. In fact, she told me where Ava ran off to on the very first date. I could have stopped seeing her back then, but I wanted to see where the date was headed. We spent nights together and she started calling me a lot. I was surprised to see that she had no problem doing that to her own best friend. But, in my own sick way, I was very happy about it. I discovered that Ava ran off to Florida to stay with one of her aunts. I was not ready to stress myself and go look for her. That was never the plan. I just wanted to know how far away she was so I could make sure she ran as fast as she could and got the next flight to North Carolina. Even though she was not picking my calls and had seemingly blocked my phone number, I knew of a way I could make it work. Social media is a very strong tool, and I feel like I'm a fool for only just realizing that now. I had Ava as my friend on Facebook, but my plan wasn't to message her directly. I decided to post pictures of me and Francia together. When I say pictures, believe me that they were very romantic pictures, and if I didn't know the dynamic, I would have believed that we were a real couple. After making that post, I had no way to know if Ava saw it because it wasn't a Facebook story. I wanted something that would last a long time and not just 24 hours only, so she could see it even when she was not online. Days went by and I really thought that I'd wasted my time. I didn't hear from Ava even after making that post, and I was about to start making other plans. But, just 3 days ago, my gatekeeper rushed into the house and told me Ava was at the gate and wanted to see me. It was at that moment that I knew that she had seen the most. Just like I'd expected, she rushed back as soon as she could just so she could find out exactly what has been going on behind her back. Of course, I asked the gatekeeper not to let her in. My main purpose of asking her to come back is not to see her or have a conversation with her. I need to get a divorce, and that's exactly what my plan is. I'd already filed for a divorce when she came back, and my lawyer said all we had to do was live separately for a full year before we can get an absolute divorce. Ava was and is still not aware that I'd filed for divorce. But it's important that I let her know, or else all my efforts would literally be in vain. The next day after Ava's arrival, I went to see Francia at her house. I don't know what to label my dynamic with Francia yet. She's cool and has a good vibe. I don't know if I plan on being in a serious relationship with her, though. I'm not hesitant because of Ava. In fact, I don't care about Ava's involvement in any of this. I'm just taking my time to analyze Francia and see if she's someone I'm interested in officially dating. For now, I'll just say we're having fun. I don't know if Ava followed me or she just happened to get to Francia's house at the same time as me. Anyway, we got there at the same time. She tried walking up to me, but I ignored her and got into the house. Francia wasn't aware of Ava's presence immediately because I didn't care to tell her, so he rushed to kiss me. I didn't mind returning the kiss. Ava happened to walk in at the same time and she decided to make a scene. Even as I write this, I'm still smiling in triumph. The look on her face was priceless. First of all, she looked like she needed a huge bath, and it was obvious that she'd been stress drinking again. But, for the first time ever, I didn't care about any of that. I was done caring for her, and I'm still done caring for her, lol. Where did caring for her get me? She cheated, and then tried to trap me in the marriage. She's practically like a stranger I never met, and I plan on things being that way forever. Ava tried to get her hands on Francia, and she actually scratched her face with her nails. But I didn't let her do more than that. Even though I didn't want to go anywhere close to her, I held her back and left some space between both of them. I noticed that Francia tried hiding in my back. Maybe she suddenly felt remorseful for her friend at that period, but it was none of my business. Just like the scheming woman Ava, she tried guilt-tripping Francia and accusing her of sleeping with her husband. At first, I was busy on my phone trying to call security, but I decided to stop when I heard Ava accusing me of cheating. Oh, that really caught my attention. It's her audacity for me. It was her audacity for me. Ava had the guts to accuse me of cheating after she single-handedly invited men into my house and deviled our marriage in the living room. Before that day, I used to wonder why our marriage had to end up in shambles, but that day I was immensely grateful to Ava for cheating on me. If she didn't cheat now, I'd have never known how wicked she was till it was too late. I'm glad that I literally dodged a bullet with her. My whole life could have been ruined if I just spent time taking care of a woman that couldn't control her alcohol and had the tendency to make poor choices confidently. She never told me of her alcohol problem while we dated. In fact, she didn't even drink alcohol at all and lied that she hated it. She practically tricked me into marrying her in the first place. Why couldn't she just say she went to rehab? No, she decided to be deceitful. But even after I found out the truth 2 years after our marriage, I'd been ready to forgive her and try to help her stop her addiction. I even had to wait so long to have a child because I knew she couldn't carry a child while she still found it hard to control her alcohol. But she chose to pay me back for my patience by cheating on me. I made it clear to Ava that I owed her no explanation. I refused to listen to her unnecessary speeches and made it known to her that I'd already filed for divorce. Ava was surprised when she heard me say that. Yes, she was really surprised to know that I went on with the divorce. She was so sure and confident that I was going to be stuck with her for life. Well, she definitely got the shock of her life from me that day because I made sure that I didn't mince any words. I told her that the divorce was happening whether she liked it or not. Ava held onto my collar and tried throwing herself at me. It was a very abnormal action and I had to control myself, or else I would have made the mistake of pushing her away. If I did that, I can assure you all that I didn't trust where she would have landed. She looked frail and weak, and it was obvious that she'd been wasting her time drinking again. If I pushed a person like that, I might end up being tagged as an abuser. So, I just grabbed her hands and took it off my collar. Ava didn't want to let me go. She kept calling me names and accusing me of making her life miserable. I don't know if she was aiming for emotional abuse, but none of it really worked on me. I'd made up my mind to cut all ties with her, and I did so with a big smile on my face. Her confidence about me never being able to divorce her had faded away, and she had to face reality quicker than she imagined. I know she felt like a fool for thinking she could tie me down to the marriage. She didn't expect how events turned out. I guess we both got the shock of our lives at the end of the day. Ava acted like she was going to go crazy right at that moment. Francia was scared and grabbed my hand. I knew that Ava was just trying to act out, so I'd believe she was really hurt and try to take back my words. But, unfortunately for her, I didn't care about her drama at all. I personally grabbed her hand and dragged her out of Francia's house. Francia didn't have a gatekeeper because it was a joint estate. They only had one gate and Francia's house was quite far from the main gate. I told her she had to be very careful because Ava could show up anytime. I also told her to make sure she called the estate security anytime she needed help. That was all I did before I left her house that day. I had to go see my lawyer and discuss what our next steps would be. As an artist, I still have a lot of work to do. I don't work for anyone since I have my own studio, but I have people under me and we have clients. I also have an art exhibition coming up in 6 months' time, so I have to brace myself and get ready for work. I sell NFTs too, and it's something I've been obsessed with for a very long time. I'd spent so much time trying to get out of my marriage with Francia that I'd forgotten about how important my work is to me. I still need to make money, and that's why I've decided to focus on work and update you guys only when the divorce is finally finalized. So far, Francia and I have still been in contact and we meet up once in a while. I also have another girl I've had coffee with once. I really think that my hands are full, lol. I've got options. Honestly, I don't see anything wrong with that. After 4 years of staying married to a witch like Ava, I think it's okay to take my time when it comes to dating. I'm not trying to say that Francia is not a good choice. I don't just think I want to rush into a relationship with someone that's friends with Francia. They say birds of the same feather flock together, and I guess I'm not ready to meet the same birds twice. Well, I'll see how it goes. But, till then, I'll update you all when I hopefully get a full divorce from the witch. Update 2. I'm taking a very deep breath, guys, and I advise that you all do the same so you can brace yourselves before reading this update. I think it's been an interesting ride, even though it was a really big life-changing one for me. I mean, I had to adjust to a lot of things. But after 1 year and 6 months, I'm at a better place, and that's why I decided to make an update to this post now. I think the world is a place where one learns and grows at the same time. I did get a divorce, but it wasn't the easiest thing in the world. In fact, I'll say this, and I'll say it confidently. This divorce has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Don't get it twisted. It wasn't hard because I found it hard to separate from Ava. Oh no. It was hard because I had to stay married to her for a full year after everything. Every day for that full year, I woke up angry and furious. But I had to be patient and follow the rules of North Carolina. At the end of the day, my patience was worth it, and I'm now a free man. Ava got the shock of her life on the last day our divorce was fully finalized. Even after a full year, she had been in denial and thought that the divorce wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately for her, reality ended up hitting her with a very loud bang. Even after everything she tried doing, all her efforts were in vain. When I saw her on that last day, I knew she was miserable. Even now, I get calls from people saying she is worsened. But none of that concerns me because I'm not the one who made the choices for her. I wasted 4 years of my life trying to make her a better person, but she threw all that away and cheated. Now she's going through the toughest phase in her life, and I've turned a blind eye to everything. I'm even more happy that I was able to get her back in more ways than one. Her best friend betrayed her and made a move on me. I got a divorce and she's broke. I know you all already know everything that happened in the last 2 updates, so I'll just tell you all how Ava tried to make sure the divorce didn't happen. Yes, she tried to sabotage it again. Recall that I mentioned having an arts exhibition coming up in the last update? Well, after months of preparation, the day came 1 year ago. At that time, I only had 6 months before the divorce was finalized. I'd blocked Ava's number and stopped the gatekeeper from letting her into my house, so I didn't see her for those full 6 months. But Ava suddenly showed up at my art exhibition. Yes, she showed up there and tried to cause a scene. I'd worked for that day for 6 whole months, and I literally had sleepless nights to make sure everything was perfect. I knew that there was no way I was going to let Ava ruin it. Even when she showed up, I told the security to stop her from coming in and instructed them to drag her out. After that, I didn't see her for almost an hour, and I believed that she'd gotten tired and eventually left. Unfortunately for me, I'd gotten too relaxed and had forgotten all about her not knowing that she was going to show up again. If the security got relaxed and didn't realize that she had sneaked in. It was a lot of drama, and I can still vividly remember how furious I'd been. She tried causing a scene and throwing a fit, so I threatened to call the police and have her arrested. She left after some of our mutual friends spoke to her. I didn't really care after that because I was able to use that incident to my advantage in court. It wasn't as messy as I thought it would be. Maybe that's because she suddenly realized that she was fighting a lost battle. On the last day of our divorce getting finalized, I'd been at my happiest in a long time. Just the thought of being free made me very happy. I was even more happy that I didn't have to see her face ever again after that day. That was a very big deal for me, and it was one of the reasons I dressed my best, lol. I didn't need a seer to tell me before I knew how defeated Ava was. She looked like she found it hard to accept the truth. I didn't really care, though. It just felt good to know that she was going through it alone. I was, and I'm never going to put myself in that situation again. I got back at her in the best way possible, and that full year of waiting was actually worth it even though it was a frustrating year. After the divorce, I decided to take time off work and just live life as it comes for a while. I stopped seeing Francia because I don't want to commit to any relationship yet. I want to soak in this single life and do whatever I like. Francia tried to convince me, but I made it clear to her that my mind was made up. I've not really dated anyone seriously. I've just been trying to soak in the time I have off work. Talking of soaking things in, I'm currently on a relaxation trip. I decided to utilize my time and have as much fun as possible before going back to the crazy life of an artist. What a life-changing experience it has been. I, for one, will never forget everything that has happened. But I'm immensely grateful that everything that transpired did so early and not when it was too late. One thing I've come to realize is that no matter how bad something is, sometimes it's better to go through them fast and make the rest history. That's it, guys. I'm going back to enjoying my trip and hopefully I see a lady I like. Lol.